the stories. But what if one thing changed everything?
That doesn't sound ominous at all.
On August 11th, expect the unexpected.
It cannot be.
Let's be honest, we've been through weirder.
And ask yourself the question, what if?
It appears we have a common enemy.
I guess I have to freestyle then.
Streaming August 11th, only on Disney+.
Yeah, peace. I love peace. I'd be out of a job with peace.
Do we know each other?
Time. Reality. It's changeable.
Where you want to be? That's the question, isn't it?
Every universe is different. Each one unique.
Slow down a little bit. There's a few people in the room that don't understand. Not me, I get it.
Who are you?
The name's Captain Carter.
Scheiße!
I am the Watcher. I observe all that transpires here. But I do not, cannot, will not interfere. I guess I have to freestyle then.
We have you outnumbered.
A Ravager never flies solo. I said never flies solo.
Is that some kind of catchphrase?
You had me worried for a second.
Journey to face the unknown and ponder the question. What if?
And we are live with another episode. Wait, another episode? No, this is the first episode of the What If After Show. But I guess it's another episode of the general series of after shows that we do for the Keeg. We started with the WandaVision after show, then we did the Falcon and Winter Soldier after show, then we did the Loki after show. Now this is the What If after show. I'm your host, Dimitri Pereira. If you're hearing my voice and seeing my face, you are watching our live stream where we're live streaming this show late night. We just watched the What If episode 1, and we're live streaming this episode. So if you see my face and hear my voice, you are watching us on one of many platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, or our main platform that we stream to, volume.com. You can find us there at volume.com/The Keeg Show. Or if you're just hearing our voices, then you're listening to the podcast, and that is great too. That's on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Google Play. We're on all of those. That's enough talking. Who am I? I'm your host, Dimitri Pereira. Normally we have co-host Paul Lau, but I guess the title of this What If After Show was What If Paul Lau remembered what day it was today. I think that's Paul will hear this. I will tell him. Paul's normally the co-host. Has been co-host for 3 series so far. In the 4th series, episode 1, he got lost in the multiverse. So it is just just me, your lovable host, Dimitri. But then we also have a guest, and that guest is Brian Long. You may remember him from Comic Talk, many episodes of Comic Talk, which is our show where we talk about comics, pretty self-explanatory, that we do on Thursday evenings. Brian, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm super excited to be here for this episode in particular because the first Captain America movie is one of my favorite MCU movies, and I just love the Captain America mythos universe in general. Although I feel like we do have to mention the third host that's here with us today, over your shoulder, Uatu the Watcher. Who, as we know, will not say anything because he can only observe. He cannot actually participate in the conversation, but he's here too.
I want to talk about the Watcher, okay? Just really even before, like, this episode starts off, and even in the trailers for this show, that big bald guy with the glowing eyes and the collar and the cape, right? He's part of the universe. He is a species of people called the Watchers. In Marvel Comics, there is one Watcher per universe that watches over that universe and records events, but cannot interfere, right? Mm-hmm. The Marvel 616 universe, that Watcher in charge of that universe is Uatu. Uatu. But here's the thing, Brian. This universe's Watcher wouldn't be called Uatu.
Oh, I guess he wouldn't be, right? Because it's not 616 proper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the MCU.
Or no. We're getting into
well, is it? Well, here's the thing. These are multiple universes in the multiverse.
Right.
Shouldn't it be a different Watcher every time?
So but in the What If comic book, Uatu's kind of like the Rod Serling, like Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
He's kind of like the narrator, because I think the trick is like it's not necessarily like it is its own distinct universe, but it isn't, because it's more him just kind of like pondering, as they say in the trailer, pondering the question what if, right? Like proposing like what if this thing had happened slightly differently than the actual continuity event occurred. So it's this weird sort of thing where it's like he is the Watcher of that universe, and I guess he's just kind of bored and sharing with us some like bong rip dorm room philosophy of like, man, what if like this happened, and then exploring the possibilities from there.
I guess I can accept that. Also, it's Jeffrey Wright voicing the Watcher. I love Jeffrey Wright.
Yeah,
I love him.
I think his voice for the Watcher, like, it was funny because after he was cast, I did some sort of binging of the What If comic books, and when I'd read the narration, I read in his voice, and it's perfect for this sort of thing. You got to have someone with real gravitas in their voice, someone with a real memorable tone to them, and I think Freddie would be the perfect person for that.
Yeah. I just realized Uatu sounds like Who Watch You. Is it supposed to be? You know what I mean? Like he's a watcher who watch you.
Right.
Uatu.
Who watch you? Uatu.
Who watch you?
Yeah. Yeah. I would have to ask Stan and Jack that, but unfortunately
we're
not around to answer.
Are you as high as I am, Brian? Are we both high? I haven't smoked in years, but I feel super high right now.
I think I'm just like punchy from being up so late. It's 4 in the morning where I am, so I think it's gonna have that energy to it. But no substances were ingested before this episode.
The highest I've ever been was not substance related. The highest I've ever been was not even me ingesting a substance. The highest I think I've ever been was when I was in high school, and I used to stay up all night in order to get a project done. And and you would just stay up and be deprived of sleep for so long. Like there was this one time I did a screenplay for a video project that we had to do on the Da Vinci Code. And like I wrote a screenplay for us to act out because we were doing like a talk show where we had the Holy Grail. Sure. It was super dumb. But like,
so you've been doing talk shows since high school, is what you're saying?
I guess. It was a fake talk show, right? Yeah. What if Dimitri didn't do that? What if Dimitri just shut up? I feel like, okay, I'm going on a different tangent. Anyway, long story short, I was writing this talk show thing. You guys can't. Let's see. Hold on.
Yeah.
Superbeard is out there. What's up, Superbeard? Superbeard's saying that they can't comment on volume. Why wouldn't? Let's see if I can solve this problem right now. But what I was gonna say, Brian, is that yeah, and so it's all wackadoo screen. Like the screenplay went wackadoo because I was so high off of just being deprived of sleep. Yeah.
Well, and sometimes it's needed, right? Sometimes you need to just run off of that sleep deprivation energy to get a certain thing done.
Yeah.
And much like Uatu the Watcher, who never sleeps and only observes, we can understand the power in that from witnessing his observations of the universe.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, is it? I don't think it's in replay mode anymore. Okay, there we go, Superbeard. All right. But thank you for letting me know. Basically, Superbeard was saying on volume you can't. It was on replay mode because I set a previous episode to replay on my channel on volume, which you could do now, which is super cool. Oh, what's up, Vaga? What's up, everybody? I was wondering, nobody was here. I was like, where is everybody? Turns out
they were all the Watcher. They could only observe and not interfere.
and not interfere. The big question for everyone
says that, and he interferes constantly.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like every science fiction franchise needs a character that watches but doesn't interfere, but actually interferes.
But interferes all the time. Yeah. Oh, so we got the usual suspects here. I'm super happy. You know what this is like, Brian? I threw a birthday party for myself. You and we're here. We're sitting here being like, nobody's here, but I forgot to unlock my front door, and my front doorbell wasn't working. And everybody's outside being like, we want to come in. There's a party.
Let me say hi to everybody. Superbeard is out there. Hi. Vagabondage is out there. Hi. Duck Dodger 714 asked, where's Paul? Paul, the joke, I don't know if you guys are here. Let me just say the joke again. What if Paul remembered what day it was? Paul was supposed to be here, and he's not available now. So that's fine. Vagabondage is here. Miss Marauder is here. Miss Marauder says it said that she could only comment if she tipped. What a bunch of sellouts. I'm sorry that was that setting was on. I did not mean for that setting to be on. So Superbeard is saying Uatu can see all of the multiverse in the 616, so it's possible he sees Marvel 199999 or whatever is that the actual designation for the MCU?
That's the designation that I think has been given to it in different outlets, because I know that they have that's like if you go to the Marvel wiki, that's the designation that it's been given, although I don't know in continuity when that's ever been explicitly stated. But yeah, and it's also the tricky thing where obviously they reference 616 in Far From Home, but that's revealed to be part of Mysterio's ruse. So the question of what the designation of the MCU actually is, I think, is still a little bit up for debate and could very well change as time goes on. But,
that's what Superbeard is saying. That's the MCU designation from Feige. So all right.
Oh, okay. All right. Hey,
all right.
If Feige says it, then I guess we gotta follow.
Yeah. What were we? So basically, something about being high. We were just riffing for a little bit. Here's a big question. Now, as What If gets more popular, are people just gonna use that as like roasting people or insults? Hey, what if you weren't such a big old dick, dude?
What if you remember to call your mom or something like that? Yeah.
My mom's watching What If. She's like, right, Dimitri, what if you remembered to take the trash out?
What if you remembered how to split the check at the restaurant or whatever the case may be? Yeah, that could easily become the go-to burn for somebody, for sure.
Sure. Superbeard is asking, was Mysterio's ruse based on the actual multiverse? Far From Home technically took place after the events of WandaVision and Loki. No, because Mysterio was from the regular MCU designation. He just made up a fantastical story without proof of the multiverse. I don't think anyone had proof of the multiverse. They just assumed that at that moment in time, there's been aliens, there's been gods, there's been whatever. You might as well accept the multiverse. And
yeah, he pretty explicitly says in that bar scene that the ruse that they came up with was completely ridiculous or something along those lines. So I don't think we're meant to take. And that's his whole deal, right? He's Mysterio. You don't take anything with him at face value because it's all illusions and trickery.
Yeah. I love everybody in the comments right now. Miss Marauder says she's going to screen grab the What If logo and put it on her students' papers. What if you cited your sources?
Oh, I'm totally stealing that one when the school year starts.
Brian is a teacher as well, everybody. I don't know if anybody out there has met Brian before. And Brian has been a consistent guest on Comic Talk on Thursday evenings. Miss Marauder, I think, has popped in on a couple of Comic Talks, I think. But yeah, Brian is a teacher too, so yeah.
What if you use the comma properly? That's going to be a question I'm going to be asking a lot over the next couple months, I think.
But then, how old are your students, Brian?
Oh, they're high schoolers. They can take a joke.
Yeah. So, but it's like, hey, Mr. Long, what if you were an asshole? I don't know,
What if you showed up to class on time, Darren?
Yeah.
How about that?
Mr. Long, what if you got a life, man?
What if go to the principal's office? That's how that would happen.
Yeah, what if you get your ass to the principal's office?
And I am teaching a course on comics and graphic novels this year, so that'll be perfect.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this question while we're discussing questions. What is your relationship to the What If comic book?
I am not a crazy fan of the What If comics. And this also ties in with this show. And truth be told, we almost did not get a What If after show, mostly because I'm like, I don't know why it matters. What If comics, it's the same thing. Why does it matter to me? What if Punisher was Captain America? That was one, right? Like, what does it matter to me if it's not in continuity? The reason I'm so in love with Marvel and DC is the continuity. It is the shared universe. So the only exception to the What If stuff, which I think they're going to do in this show, is Exiles. And if you remember the comic book Exiles, where different characters from different universes in the multiverse team up to create a team. Basically, then that matters to me.
Sure.
Because individual failed universes don't matter to me. DC has a lot of those too, right? Like, those don't matter to me. But the question is, if you get a bunch of characters from different universes and put them together into like a multiverse spanning team, awesome. That's what I'm here for. So Exiles, I love.
Yeah, and there actually is, and I did a couple TikToks about What If stories that I think are really interesting, and one's going to go up today. There actually is a What If story where Uatu gathers together individuals from different past What If stories to form a team to fight Immortus of all people. So there's an interesting like parallel between where the MCU is currently going and that particular What If story is called Timequake. So there's definitely some seeds that I think have been planted, which is funny to me because this is like some very obscure comic book that's probably been sitting in like dollar bins for the last like 20 years that nobody has ever really talked about, and yet this TV show seems to be pulling from it. Yeah, I think I had a similar feeling to you for a while, and it wasn't until this show that I kind of was like, you know what, let me kind of dive in, because what I like about the What If comics is you can kind of just like, you can literally judge the book by its cover. You can go like, what's the story here? It's what if Wolverine became Lord of the Vampires? vampires, hell yeah, I'm gonna read that comic. That sounds buck wild. I want to see what happens in that.
Right.
So I had a similar feeling, but I think what I have come around to enjoying about them is that when you have the restraints off, that like fear, or I guess I should say concern that like you have to continue the story month to month, you can tell the writers have a lot of fun just kind of going nuts with the premise. You know what I mean? I think the what if stories that are the most interesting are the ones that are either buck wild, like what if Wolverine became Lord of the Vampires, or they are something that really digs into something intrinsic about the character that's maybe a bit more boundary pushing than you could do month to month. I think the best what if story, which I recently did a TikTok on, is what if Captain America were revived today, which basically is this like horrifying dystopia where the 50s Captain America, who for those of you who don't know is like a racist monster, gets out of cryogenic sleep before Steve Rogers, and everyone thinks he's the real Captain America, and essentially turns America into this fascist dystopia, and Steve Rogers eventually gets out of the ice and has to fight him. And it's this really great story. It has the best Captain America speech ever written in it. But again, you can't necessarily do that, as we saw with the attempt at Secret Empire a couple of years ago. You can't necessarily do a story like that over a course of many months. It works as a one-shot comic book, though.
Right. And that's where I also differ in what I like. This is my taste. I'm not saying that what ifs aren't valid, right? Superbeard says that he loves the what if comics because they're like official fan fiction. And they kind of are. He also says that just because something isn't canon doesn't mean it can't be a great story that people enjoy, such as like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Is arguably non-canon, but can people still watch it and enjoy it? Can people still watch the Netflix Daredevil show and enjoy it? Yeah, of course. But for me personally...
Not to mention comics like Kingdom Come or Dark Knight Returns, which have questionable continuity placement as well. And those are considered like some of the finest comic books ever made.
I think Kingdom Come is one of my favorites of all time. And I think those are the exceptions, is those they run for multiple issues. They tell a story. Spider-Man life story. Amazing. I bought it. Yeah. Like I bought it in trade. I read it in issues. I bought it in trade because it's more than just a one-shot one if. You know? So, you know, that's my taste, because again, why do I, and I've talked to you about this on Comic Talk, why do I gravitate towards DC and Marvel and not independent comics as much? It's not because independent comics aren't good. It's because I've put so much time into these cohesive universes that like, that's what I love, is everything interconnecting. And when it's done right, that's what I love. So Marvel, amazing. DC, it's up and down because sometimes like New 52, they'll mess up everything, and I will stop reading DC comics for a little bit, you know, because of that. So
it's interesting to kind of draw those two threads together of what you're saying. It sounds to me like the what if stories you like are ones where, because they're multiple parts, you get that sense of a universe being built and continuity being built from that.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting, and it kind of merges those tastes together for you.
Yeah. And that's my specific taste. Like,
totally.
There's been X-Men events like Age of X that created an alternate universe that didn't really exist. It was this weird reality shift thing, but like the art was amazing and the character designs on that are so super cool. So then that also draws you to that. So it's like, all right, would I go back? And I have Age of X, the trade paperback, because it's X-Men. I gotta have it. But like, do I need to reread it? No, I mostly look at it for the art, because the art designs are super, super sick. Tolliver Street is out there. Brian, you know Tolliver Street, right?
Yeah, Tolliver. That's my dude.
Yeah. Tolliver says Age of X was fun. Yeah, it was fun. And then you're trying to like figure it out. And then Superbeard says Kingdom Come is one of the greatest comics of all time. I agree. I think Kingdom Come is better than Watchmen. That's my personal, and that's just a matter of stylistic taste. You know, and as opposed to
it's funny because I think DC has really kind of like nailed the Elseworlds thing down. Elseworlds being their what if, for anybody who isn't aware of that term. They really nailed that down into a science, because they usually take the time to make them multi-part miniseries, versus Marvel, where like What If was always kind of just this like fun, goofy Twilight Zone.
It's super goofy.
We're gonna do a one story and then move on to the next thing.
Right.
You know, definitely has moments of drama and pathos that are really good, but never took it as seriously as DC did, where I think they were like, no, we have a multiverse. We're going to really build out these possible alternative futures and timelines for these characters.
Yeah. Miss Marauder says she's never read any of the What If comics, but her favorite Superman comic is Red Sun. Yeah, Red Sun is an Elseworld.
That's another
so
great
DC's
one.
Elseworlds are like Marvel's What Ifs. And Marvel's, like, some of Marvel's best What Ifs aren't even What Ifs. Like, Marvel Zombies is not a What If, but, like, it's an alternate universe that,
and it's
like,
gonna be in this show, What If.
yeah. So let's talk about this show and the events that happen, and
let's get
we'll
into it.
obviously go on off tangent. You said you're a big Captain America, the first Avenger fan, right? You're a fan of the first one.
Yeah. Well, I've always had an affinity for the like 40s pulp adventure aesthetic, like your Indiana Jones, your Hellboy, your Justice Society of America. That's kind of just like an aesthetic and a storytelling space that I find to be really fun and engaging. Or like The Rocketeer, which was, you know, directed by the same guy who directed Captain America: The First Avenger. So anything kind of set in that era is like catnip for me. Like, you show me something like that, I'm already bought into it. And I think this episode did a really nice job of capturing that same spirit, that same aesthetic, that same sort of like fun adventure feeling right off the bat. So I think that was something that really drew me in and made me excited for this episode.
Yeah. So according to the Watcher in this episode, the big choice, the one choice that created an alternate timeline was Peggy saying, I will stay, and not going back up. And it's been a long time since I've seen the first Avenger.
I watched it earlier today.
Oh, did you?
Yes, in preparation for this episode.
So that you were super smart, Brian. That was a super smart decision to make. So good on you. What happens in the movie? She just says okay, and she goes upstairs.
In the movie, that whole crowd goes upstairs. They're all like observing from that observation booth. So it's not just her staying. It's like everybody stays down there, and because of that, she clocks the Hydra assassin sooner and is able to prevent him from, Erskine still. It seems like Erskine still dies, but in that process, like, she kind of sabotages his plan earlier, so he's not able to escape, and he ends up shooting Steve Rogers, so Steve isn't able to get into the machine because he's bleeding out. So she takes his place in the machine instead.
Right. But in the movie, they all go upstairs. It takes longer, right? Because Steve becomes Captain America,
Steve
then
actually
stops the
gets
assassin.
in. So because they're all down there, he sets off the bomb sooner.
Okay.
Because they're all, because when he was up in the booth, he has the ability to like wait, observe, see what happens. Then he sets the bomb off and makes his escape. But because they're all kind of like in that space, he sets the device off sooner, and that creates the ripple effect that sets off this new universe.
This was an interesting episode because it does make you think, like, are things better? Are things worse? What's different? And I guess what do you think about the animation? Because we have some comments in the chat about the animation style. How did you feel about the animation?
I will preface this with I'm certainly not an expert in animation, and I'm certainly, I'm an older person, I'm 30 something. I'll always kind of be partial to 2D animation because that's just kind of what I grew up with. I will say that I think it shines the best in the action sequences. I thought the fight sequences were excellent, even for like 2D or 3D. I thought they were really well choreographed. The sequence where she is like jumping from plane to plane, that ruled. That was super cool.
Okay, here's my that scene is since I was a kid, and imagining what a Captain America movie would be. Okay, this is before the MCU, right? This is before. I always had an image when this was like, because when I would go to sleep, I would think about like movies that I would want to do and think about like storyboard them in my head. And so one of which was Captain America with the shield, jumping wing to wing, taking down planes, and then jumping to the next plane. So totally. I always wanted to see that in live action, and it never happened in the first Captain America movie.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw this, I was like, oh shit. It's been it's been at least 25 years since I had the idea, and that's what I wanted. And then
they got into your brain.
They got into my brain. They got it on screen. It's not live action, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm happy. That's what I wanted.
Yeah. And I mean, if the show's basically like 20 minutes of Nazis just getting wrecked, and what more can I ask for in my entertainment, really?
Right.
But yeah, I think some of the dialogue, some of the like faces seemed a little rubbery at times. If I had any critique, like some of the like mouth movements in syncing with the dialogue seemed a little like wonky to me.
Yeah.
But I think there's a fluidity to it that will make the action sequences like a draw and really entertaining and really fun to watch. If this first episode's any indicator.
Yeah. Looks like Marvel is putting. Well, I mean, I think it'll just get better over time. And I think that the action was cool. I was trying to find a problem with the action, and I wasn't finding a problem with the action. So then I just I took myself back out, and then I just looked at the story, and that was fine. But I think they're hinging on What If doing well and What If doing... It doesn't have to do a crazy amount, because I'm sure the views are not as great on this as the live action. And that's fine.
Yeah.
But enough that they're investing in a in-house animation studio for Marvel.
Yeah.
And so the fact is, they have such high hopes for this show that they're not only doing another season, right? They've been in production for 2 seasons worth of animation. They've just released, the first episode of the first season, right? But they must have high hopes for where animation can take them, which I think is great, because Marvel animation sucks. There was a moment in time.
The track record's not the best.
No, there was a moment in time it was good, and then it sucked, because then they started putting essentially it's around 2007, 2008 when getting closer to the Avengers movie, where they start swapping out the shows for cheaper animation and cheaper everything.
Which is a shame, because I know I'm tooting an old horn here, but the best Marvel show, the Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes show, kind of gets canceled for that cheaper animation that you're talking about, and I think that's arguably the best Marvel animated series. So if you haven't checked that out, highly recommend. It's all on Disney Plus.
Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Earth's Mightiest Hero, or Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, Wolverine and the X-Men, great show, and then Spectacular Spider-Man. Those are like top 3.
Which, did you catch who played Steve Rogers in the show?
Who?
It's Josh Keaton, who was Peter Parker in the Spectacular Spider-Man cartoon.
Oh, I didn't know. Okay.
Yeah. I was like, why does this voice sound so familiar to me? And I looked it up, and he was Spider-Man in Spectacular Spider-Man.
You know whose voice stood out to me? Bradley Whitford. Do you know?
Yes.
I was like, why does that voice sound so? Because he has such a distinct voice. I expected that colonel or whatever general to be like, I would have voted for Obama for a 3rd term if I could.
Which that's a real deep pull. He only popped up in I think the Agent Carter one-shot. I don't think he.
I looked that up.
Agent Carter TV show. Yeah, that was a deep pull. But I was like, oh, Bradley Whitford, nice.
Yeah. Did they get Dominic? Not Dominic? What's his name?
Dominic
Cooper. Did they get Dominic Cooper for Howard Stark?
He was. Yeah. They got a lot of people for this episode. I think really the only person who wasn't from the original cast was Chris Evans. Was Josh Keaton playing?
No, it was also Chris Evans too. They got Russ Marquand, who played Red Skull in Infinity War and Endgame.
You're right. Right. I guess in my head I was like, it's not Hugo Weaving, but it's probably the guy who played it.
It's Ross. I think it's Ross Marquand. He does
a solid impression of Hugo Weaving.
Yeah, well, he's an impressionist, but he's also an actor.
Perfect.
So you see him in Walking Dead, and he's not doing impressions in Walking Dead, and
sure.
But like he does impressions, and so he essentially became the impression of Red Skull by playing Red Skull, right?
Right.
Yeah. But then, Vagabondage says, who was Stanley Tucci?
I think it was Stanley Tucci.
I don't know, because I saw Daryl Hammond, SNL legend Daryl Hammond. Yeah.
Oh.
Daryl Hammond used to be the longest. Yeah. I think so. It was probably Daryl Hammond doing a Tooch, because Daryl Hammond used to do like Bill Clinton, and he used to do all those guys on SNL. Yeah. So I'm cool with that. Like, get the impressionists, give the impressionists jobs, because the goal of this is to make it so much like the MCU, right? You got to have those voices.
Right.
So
that's the question I wanted to pose to you was, how did you feel the MCU actors did with voice acting? Because I think that the DreamWorks animated films in particular have kind of made us forget that voice acting and on-camera acting are two distinct art forms. And that just because you're good at on-screen acting doesn't mean you're automatically going to be a good voice actor. How did you feel the actors did, who were particularly MCU actors, did in their performances in this show? I mean, granted, it's brief, but I was wondering if you had any thoughts on that.
I mean, I was fine with it. I never noticed anything crazy.
Yeah.
Also, you just have to back it up with good animation that can animate the face, right? And your eyebrows and whatever you're working with. I'm not putting down voice actors. Voice actors are super talented. And you take a regular actor, like a live actor, and bring them to voice acting, and they don't do too well. But I think that's mostly just because of like not knowing the tips and the tricks and having that like experience doing voice acting. And I think that if a live actor does voice acting enough, so let's just say John C. Reilly, they'll just they become a voice. They learn all the tips and tricks over however many years, and now you're a voice actor. So I don't think it's necessarily like they'll be voice acting and never live up to like true voice actors, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
But
I was just curious. I was curious to see how well it would carry over. Yeah. I think for the most part it was pretty solid. I think, no offense to Sebastian Stan, I think Sebastian Stan's a very good actor. I think some of his choices in this episode were a little wonky.
Was it?
Overall, I didn't. Yeah, there were some lines where it was just a little like, okay, I don't know if that's how I would have. I don't know if that's the way to present it, but again, it's that weird shift in medium. It's not the same thing, and also, who knows, like how much recording time they had? Like you have like 6 lines in the episode. Maybe you're there for like 20 minutes and then you go home. So who knows?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I honestly don't have any complaints. I'm not looking too far when it comes to animated stuff. Like, I look at the whole, like, it's very hard for me to, like, completely dissect it. I look at the whole. I'm like, were there big glaring things that I, like, that I didn't like? I think about that. But as the most part, like, I'm like, well, did I like the episode? Did I not like the episode? It's harder. It's harder to do that for animation for me than live action, where I could be like, let me look at the writing. Let me look at the characters. And, like, I want to be able to see the actor's eyes and know that they're not just reading lines, but you don't get that in animation. So I don't feel the same way with my critique.
Right. And I also think this episode is much more of a fun episode rather than like an emotionally rich episode. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like maybe I will probably have more to say if there's an episode that has more sort of pathos to it, versus this one, which was very much like we're just going to show you like a rollicking adventure through World War II for like 20 plus minutes.
Right. It's a good first episode, like as far as premise is concerned, right?
Yeah. I think it's a episode that really like cleanly gives you an idea of what the series is going to be about in a way that's like tangible and understandable, right? Like, you've all seen Captain America. What if someone different had been put in the pod? And then we're just going to go from there. And sorry, go ahead.
What I was going to say, of a lot of this Marvel stuff, we get so carried away as fans. Brian, you and I have been reading comics for a long time. Like, we know certain things inside and out, and we like, it's hard not to get in our own like echo chamber of like, everybody thinks the way we think, or everybody has the same experience with MCU as we do. Like, why do we need to restate origins for Spider-Man? Why do we, but like, there are always new fans. There are old fans that forget. There are literal, like, people like my parents where, if Spider-Man No Way Home has the multiverse, my parents won't watch it. Like, that's not their thing. Like, so.
Right.
So for this first episode to be pretty straightforward, I think it's to get a lot of people on board with the whole, like, what if premise. Like, my parents could watch this. They could watch this and be like, oh, yeah, things would be different. All it is a simple switch from Peggy to Steve, or Steve to Peggy. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. And there's when you read the original What If comic books, because most of them are usually like, sometimes you'll have one that's like a double-sized issue, but for the most part, it's a one-and-done story. There's the occasional two-parter, but for the most part, they're one and done. So there has to be an economy of storytelling, and like you were saying, there's that assumption of we as comic book fans know all these stories already. So it moves at a pace, both this show and those comic books, because it's kind of like, you've seen this movie, we don't need to spend a ton of time setting up who Steve Rogers is, who Peggy Carter is. We're going to start with the pod scene, which in the original film is like almost 20-something minutes in. Like, you could fit the entire runtime of just this show building up to the scene where this episode starts, right? So it helps to have someone like the Watcher who can be like, here's a quick catch up in the like very beginning of like what you should already know about this premise that we're going to establish. Now we're going to show you how things would be different, and then move at a pace from there.
Yeah. I just think it's a solid episode as far as like getting people on board with this. I'm looking forward to the Lego sets that come out, because I know they have a Lego set for this. They have a Lego set for this episode. I just bought a new Lego set. First, I haven't bought a new Lego set in a couple months, but I just got a new Lego set. It's not related to this, but the point being is I can't get this episode's Lego set just yet. I will. But
are you talking about the Hydra Stomper set? I think I saw that one.
Yeah. I want it. Oh no, you know what? Oh, I don't know if you know this. They're releasing blind baggies for What If, Loki, WandaVision,
yes,
Falcon, Winter Soldier, blind baggies of Lego minifigures. I can't wait. I'm going to get them all. Like, all of them.
They're pretty cool.
DC did one of these for 2019, I think. They had a blind baggie set for DC characters that don't appear in any other set. So you had like characters like Black Vulcan.
Oh,
like
from the Super
and like
Friends.
Yeah, and like things like that. So they're not in any sets. So DC already did a blind bag set of like 12 or 16. No, 16. So Marvel is doing their blind bag set of 16 this year or next year. I think it's this year. I think it starts the end of this year. But the point being is, Miss Marauder says there's a Croaky in the blind bags too.
Yes.
As the accessory for Loki, I think. Or for the accessory of Sylvie. I think it's accessory of Sylvie. But the point being is, I can't wait. So finally, I've been waiting for the Marvel blind bag, like just all these figurines. I can't. Yeah. What was I saying? They've been pretty tight-lipped on the premises. Anyway, of these upcoming episodes. Like, we know a couple of them, but like, what else is there?
We could kind of make some inferences from the clips that you see in the commercials, because obviously next week seems to be the Star-Lord T'Challa one. I think from what I'm seeing, the week after that is like, what if Loki had essentially won at the end of the first Thor movie? There's obviously Marvel Zombies. I'm looking forward to the which one was it? I'm totally blanking now.
There's a zombie hunter Spider-Man or something.
Which I think is part of the Marvel Zombies episode.
Yeah, but
it's like he becomes the one fighting the zombies.
yeah.
Which rules. I'm all in on that.
Yeah. And it's weird because they also, I mean, in the upcoming No Way Home, why couldn't they have named it Home Run? Home Run would have been so much better. Like, because No Way Home and Far From Home are two similar of titles.
Sure, yeah.
There's a Mystic Spider-Man suit coming out for that movie.
Yeah. So I don't know if this is deliberate or not, but the previously mentioned What If Wolverine Became Lord of the Vampires comic that I was bringing up earlier, in that comic, Doctor Strange gets killed by a vampire juggernaut, and he gives the Cloak of Levitation to the Punisher to fight the vampires. So I'm wondering if Doctor Strange gets infected by the zombie virus and the Cloak of Levitation goes to Peter Parker to fight the zombies. I'm wondering if that's like kind of the homage that they're doing there, but that seems to be the direction that they're going, which that sounds rad. That sounds like an awesome episode. I can't wait for that.
Vaga said there's the Killmonger Iron Man.
Yes, that was the one I was trying to pull from my brain. I was like, it's very prominent in the trailers. Why can't I remember that? That's the one I'm very excited to see, and I think
is it Michael B? Is it Michael B's voice?
Yeah,
I love him. I love him so much.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be really exciting to see that character back again, because I think that character really struck a chord with people, and I think seeing him in these different lights and scenarios will be really fun to see. And speaking of, like, I mean, that's the fun of What If, and I loved in this episode the whole idea of Steve still getting to be part of the war effort and getting to be in that giant Iron Man suit powered by the Tesseract. Like, that was fantastic.
I thought he was gonna die, or quote unquote die, and become Winter Soldier. That's what I thought would happen.
Iron Winter or something. Yeah, right.
When Red Skull dies like a bitch. Like, the tentacles come out and he's like, ow! And he just dies right off the bat.
That was such a Hellboy scene too. Like, I was like, he opens the portal and like a tentacle monster comes out. I'm like, someone needs to write Mike Mignola a check, because this is straight out of Hellboy. This is some real Hellboy shit right here. And like her grabbing the sword and fighting it off. Like, I was like, this rules. This is exactly.
Where did the sword come from?
It was on the wall of the castle.
It was just on the wall?
An ornamental display. Yeah, you castles, they got swords all over the place. You know.
Okay. I wasn't sure whether it was used or shown before it was used. You know?
It looked like it was in like a coat of arms hanging on the wall. And when she got slammed against the wall, she snagged it. And then
I saw her grab it, but I was like, did I miss where it was used before that? But I guess not. But I think the sword and shield works really well with the fact that she's British. And that, like, she's Captain Carter. She's not Captain America. She's British. Miss Marauder says, I'm just grateful that this series will bring us giant ladies and Captain Carter cosplay. Yeah.
She had big Barda energy. Real big Barda energy when she came out of that pot. I should have.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know whether you know. I have this affinity for Scott Free, for Mr. Miracle, and I love.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
I love his relationship with Big Barda. Big Barda being taller than him. I love that. I love tall girl, shorter guy couple.
This episode was made for you.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm saying, like, there's nothing wrong with powerful women, you know? Like,
no, absolutely,
I feel like that's often like, let's draw our women characters very demure and petite, and like Captain Carter's kicking ass, and like we can make fun of the general in the show all we want, being like, ladies can't do that, blah blah blah, but like a lot of us watching it still believe that stuff too.
No,
you know?
Like look at the comments on any like video of a woman who's like a weightlifter or anything like that, and it'll mostly just be dudes like, well, that's actually not that impressive, because, and it's dudes who like are like in my level of physical fitness, right? Like dudes just like, oh, it's actually not that impressive that you can do that. Like no matter what, there's always going to be those dudes like moving the goalposts for women, and it's an embarrassment to our entire gender. And get your act together, gentlemen, please.
Vaga says strong Brienne of Tarth vibes.
For sure, yeah.
I don't know Game of Thrones. I know who that is. But
yes.
But
if she's not cast as Big Barda in a New Gods movie, what are we even doing? Like she is
who?
Big Barda, the woman who plays Brienne of Tarth. Gwendolyn Christie, I think is her name.
Yeah,
not feeling it.
Maybe I'm specifically looking for a specific Big Barda given my stuff, but I don't see her as Big Barda to me.
How does this always happen every time I'm on the show? We always end up in this territory, and I don't understand how this keeps happening.
What, my love of female characters? Or what?
No. You said your particular stuff, and I guess I interpreted that a different way than maybe you intended it.
Wait, what did I say? I don't know.
I thought we were getting into Way of X number 2 territory again, or number 3 territory.
Number 3, Way of Sex?
Way of Sex, yeah. I thought we were ending up there again.
Yeah.
But no,
I'm not dissing Captain Phasma. Vaga is saying I'm dissing Captain Phasma. I'm not dissing Captain Phasma. She was great as Captain Phasma. The writing is not good for Captain Phasma. She was a strong female character, and the writers failed her. The writers of, Star Wars.
If you saw her as Brienne of Tarth, you might feel differently about her as Big Barda.
Yeah.
In Game of Thrones, yeah.
I don't get which way.
You didn't seem sold on her playing Brienne of Tarth or playing Big Barda. Yeah. Yes.
Anyway, I love Mr. Miracle and I love Big Barda, and I would love to see them do a live action thing. Superbeard is right. We're not getting a New Gods film anymore. It was going to be directed by Ava DuVernay, but now it's not. WB canceled it. Tolliver Street says, sir, with multiple R's. I don't know what that means. I don't know whether Tolliver...
it was a reaction to the entire awkwardness of our conversation.
I think so. Anyway, the point being is... I want to know your input about this. They've been talking about a couple of different things in the chat. What do you think about the Marvel Twitter changing their Captain America thing to Captain Carter after 4 months of Sam having the Twitter?
Yeah, I think it was a misguided move on their part. You know what I mean? I think like they definitely could have promoted the show, but I think they didn't consider the optics of it. Is what what it is. I try not to like make assumptions about sort of things, because like sometimes people just like do dumb stuff and it has these like unfortunate implications to it when you do it.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's like these are just like social media interns who are like paid a pittance to like do certain things, and they get these commands. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it. I can understand people being annoyed by it and being agitated by it, especially because Sam Wilson as Captain America has faced and will continue to face an uphill battle in the eyes of a lot of people. Because on the one hand, you've got the people who like mean well but will always be attached to Steve Rogers, Chris Evans, and then on the other hand you have just the garbage racist people. So that, and when you take that away, I think I can totally understand why people would be upset, and I think it is kind of lousy. I think it's something that they should have thought through a little bit more effectively before they did it. You know what I mean?
Right. I think it's interesting when it comes to that stuff. I think that Sam is Captain America
if they don't
now.
change it back, and if they don't change it back soon, like then we really got a problem.
Then we really got a problem. I think that they're trying to if you change it too often, you make it seem like we have a different Captain America for every flavor, the next flavor of the week, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But the only person who's not flavor of the week is Steve Rogers. But the whole the whole series of Falcon and Winter Soldier was to say that Sam's not a flavor of the week. Sam is the next Captain America.
Sam is Captain America. Yeah,
right,
for sure.
And he's not a flavor of the week. So if you change it, it happens. And this is something with social media. It's very interesting. For example, I changed most of the Keeg icon profiles to a rainbow Keeg icon profile during whatever month it was. That was Pride Month. Right. But I forget what month it was because I was like, we support this no matter what the month is. I'm not going to take it off once that month stops. So I think the month was May. Was the month May?
Well, June is Pride.
June is Pride Month. So June turned to July. July's turned to August. I still have this stuff up. But, like, it's not a flavor of the week then, right?
Right. It's that joke people always make of, like, July 1st, corporations immediately tear down all their rainbow stuff and go back to normal. But it's, like, funny because it does happen like clockwork. And at the end of the day, like, I try to separate the, like, who's running the social media campaign from, like, who's running the show. Like, the people who created the show did not call it Disney and were like, make sure you take Sam Wilson off the Twitter account. Like, that is not their decision. So
but
I don't
somebody
blame
up
them
there
for what
made
happened,
a decision.
But yeah. And I think, again, they didn't consider the optics of it, and it doesn't look good. It's lousy, and it reinforces, again, like I said, that uphill battle that the character is having to face. Let's get some more information about Captain America 4 out there. You know, like let's reassure people that he is still Captain America and that movie's moving forward and that he's going to be prominently featured, you know?
Yeah. Tolliver Street says it's so hilarious that they be quick with the window scraping. And I don't know exactly what that means other than, is it like you put a rainbow on your window and it's
exactly. You scrape it off. Like,
you're like
July 1st, 12 a.m., you're immediately like, all right, we're done now. We can stop pretending to care.
Where's our straight flag? Where's our straight flag? Let's put that up.
But that's just it. Like, whenever this is kind of the difficult thing about representation in media, right? Like, in whatever form it comes in, whether it's, you know, television or whether it's something commercial. You have to keep in mind, A, that it can't just be something you do for show. It can't just be something that you do for, you know, like, oh, we're going to do it for 30 days and then we can stop pretending to care. Because when you really look at it, like, some of these corporations, are their policies really helping the LGBTQ plus community in any way? If you dig into it, probably not. But they'll gladly slap a rainbow sticker on something and act like they're inclusive, right?
Yeah.
And then the flip side of that, you know, now we get into intersectionality, right? Like, having a female superhero prominent in this show is cool and great, but her being lifted up shouldn't have to come at the expense of a black character.
Right.
There should be space to be happy about both. You know, as someone who loves Captain America, I'm thrilled to see both of these characters get prominence, and I don't really like seeing them tear one down to raise the other up. That sucks.
Right. And then the commenters are saying that she's not even like Captain America. She's not even American. She doesn't have the American flag.
Right.
She's not Captain Britain, but she's Captain Carter with the British flag on the shield. So why is she on the Captain America thing? I think it's just for marketing reasons. But I'm sure they'll change it back. But don't worry, we'll riot. It'll be fine. You know. We'll get it done.
I think with all things, I think everybody critiquing that is absolutely valid, and I share a lot of those feelings. I think it's like, you really did not think that through at all, and that was a bad move.
Right. I don't even know if this person is still here. We had a comment on YouTube by Shazabe Chima asking, how did Peggy arrive to the SHIELD facility 70 years later?
Well, I'm assuming that
she went into the
interdimensional, right? So I'm assuming it's probably like a quantum realm kind of situation where time is distorted in whatever space she was in. So she flies through there, travels through whatever weird, you know, quantum realmy-esque shenanigans she goes through, and then pops out in a different time period.
That the tentacle being was someplace else. It wasn't that the portal.
It was some kind of interdimensional
it wasn't a time travel portal. It was that the portal and then some other realm and then back through the portal again 70 years later.
And
right.
the space that they're in is the Project Pegasus, I believe is the name of it, building where they kept the Tesseract in the beginning of Avengers, that they were experimenting on it to open gates and stuff. So presumably, like, it looked like they had maybe turned the machine on, opened a gate, and she popped out through there.
Yeah. Again, it's a reminder that I do not like MCU Hawkeye. Like, he was there for 5 seconds. He's there for 5 seconds, but just reminds me how wasted the character was. Like how wasted Black Widow was. Like, they wasted Black Widow, and they wasted Hawkeye, but to the point where I wanted more Black Widow stuff. They could have made it better, but Hawkeye gets to live. Hawkeye gets to live and have a Disney Plus show, and Black Widow, you know. Hey, Hippie Jill. Hippie Jill's out there. Jill says, yeah, but have you heard him sing? I know Jeremy Renner has a band. I do not care about his band. I don't care.
We wanted a reason to like him, not dislike him further. I don't know if Jeremy Renner's band is going to be the saving grace.
Right.
What if the Hawkeye show premieres and Jeremy Renner, like, demanded in his contract that his band has to, like, get a song in every episode? That, like, Hawkeye does, like, a live performance at the end of every episode of the
They would tell him to go fly a kite. All I know is Jeremy Renner has to have somebody backing him in Marvel, because he's been given so many chances. Like, an opportunity, not even chances, opportunities, should I say, like, for somebody that does not matter in the whole scheme of the MCU.
Yeah, well, we'll have Kate Bishop soon. That's just what we got to keep telling ourselves. We'll have Kate Bishop soon. For anyone out there that is watching this, we do have podcast episodes of previous episodes, but if you want to hear our Black Widow episode where we hate on Jeremy Renner and we kind of cry a little bit about how wasted the potential was, I had 2 amazing guests for that episode. Look up the podcast episode for the Black Widow episode of The Keeg. You can hear more Jeremy Renner hate. Anyway, what do you want to see happen, Brian, going forward with the What If show? Like, what keeps you involved with this? What keeps you hooked? Well, I think for me, it's just seeing them take risks and chances with the stories that they're telling, and doing it in a way that's, like, not expected. Like, I think from what I've seen of these episode previews, a lot of these are not, you know, directions I would have expected. Like, never in a million years would I have thought to be like, let's put T'Challa in the Star-Lord role.
That's so random, right?
It is. It totally is. But it's at the same time, like, very interesting. Like, those are two universes of Marvel that I really love. The Wakanda space and the Guardians of the Galaxy space.
They're opposite of the spectrum,
mash up,
right? Because if you think about T'Challa, his regality,
sure, yes,
and then you take it to, like, space nomad, like, white trash kind of, like, character. That's Star-Lord, right?
Yeah. No, like, that's actually a good point, because it's very much like
Earth is kind of the white trash of the universe too.
That's very much how the alien species of various comic book universes act about it. That it's like Space Alabama. They're like,
right.
Sorry to anybody from Alabama. Maybe
I'm sorry.
But no, they're like, it's the backwater of the universe. Yeah.
Earth is the place. Like, do you really, like, nobody's gonna be a tourist to Earth? Why?
Right.
Like,
but I think that'll kind of be a fun thing about it, which will be, and, you know, it'll always have this sort of, like, air of sadness to it. But I'm excited to see Chadwick Boseman's performance as T'Challa be a little bit more comedic and light. Like, it'll be interesting to see that character without the Shakespearean weight of the crown hanging over him. You know what I mean? Or, you know, the Killmonger teaming up with Tony, or doing Marvel Zombies. Like, that's such a cool risk that they're taking, and I like that they're willing to just go for it. So the What If stories I've always enjoyed are, like I said earlier, the ones where they do something buck wild, and the ones that dig into the character and tell us something about them in a risk-taking way that they couldn't do in a normal comic book. And I think if they continue that path, this will be a great show.
I want the characters to team up, and I think they might be leading towards like an Exiles multiverse type group.
Yes, it definitely seems that way from that one shot in the trailer where it looks like you get, Star-Lord, T'Challa, and young Thor, and Killmonger in a Black Panther suit.
Gamora. If
Gamora's there too, yes.
Gamora killed Thanos. There's a premise like that.
It seems to be like she takes on Thanos's role because she's wearing like his armor and has the big honking helicopter sword thing.
So I want a team-up team, and I can't wait for that. I guess that's what I'm interested in. I need that team-up team. Interesting
you
thing
love a team.
that I we've talked about this. I love teams because like man is not an island. You know what I mean? Man is not an island.
Absolutely.
Vaga in the comments says, doesn't anyone else have a feeling that the What If writers just put all the character names into a hat and pick them out at random for the episode draft? I think it's funny to think about it. I don't think that's the case. I think there's a couple of things that they're probably doing is like there has to be a master plan to it, but also I'm sure they were thinking to themselves, who do they want to work with? I'm sure they wanted to call Michael B. Jordan back to the booth and be like, let's just like work with this guy again. Because he's probably a cool guy to work with. I haven't heard any complaints about Michael B. Jordan behind the scenes. You know?
Yeah. He's a good dude.
And so, I'm sure they were like, let's bring back Killmonger. We like the guy. Let's bring him back. People like the character. We like Michael B. Jordan. Let's bring him back. I'm sure that had to do with something.
Yeah, and I think that is definitely part of the creative storytelling. It's actually really interesting reading interviews with the woman who's the head showrunner, and I feel horrible I'm blanking on her name right this moment. But it seems like they came to Kevin Feige with like a ton of ideas, which is part of the reason why they got 2 seasons, was they basically had like 20 ideas that they were like, these are all great, we're going to split these into 2 seasons. But it seems like they came to him with like, we've got this idea, and you can really see in the interviews with her the excitement and passion she has for this, where it seems like she was often being told like, no, you can't go this far with this, or like, no, you can't do this necessarily. Like there was one interview I read where she wanted to do the Jane Foster picks up Mjolnir, and they had to be like, no, because we're doing Love and Thunder. Like it was before Love and Thunder was even announced. And apparently she had an idea, they had an idea for a Guardians story, and they were like, you can't do that because chunks of that are basically what Guardians 3 is going to be about.
Yeah.
So there's lots of stuff where like they clearly came to the table with a lot of ideas that they wanted to explore, and when people are passionate about something and excited about something, that makes the show better. That comes out in the series. I'm looking up the name of the woman so I can say.
Okay, yeah. Miss Marauder says, I can't wait to be weirdly attracted to the animated version of Michael B. Jordan. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
We all are.
Yeah. What Vaga is saying Terrence Howard and Edward Norton. Because the question was who don't they like working with? Who do you think? And it's Terrence Howard and Edward Norton. Yeah, they don't like working with them, so they get rid of them. And then also like and this is my theory, they're not letting Tom Cruise anywhere near Marvel. Like that's my opinion. Like I
was expecting that to be the direction you were going with that. Yeah.
Well, because somebody was saying
famously. Sorry, go ahead.
No. Yeah. You were saying you were going to bring up Iron Man, right?
No. I was going to say he famously likes to have a level of authorial control over his projects, which he's within his right to do. Weird Scientology stuff aside,
right?
But he's also someone who like will definitely butt heads with the powers that be on set and whatnot.
So that's who Marvel is not gonna work with, is people who need, like, I don't think The Rock will ever be in Marvel because The Rock can't lose. And this is something I've been talking about on multiple shows for the past couple of weeks since I saw Jungle Cruise. The Rock can't lose. He never loses a fair fight. He never has a flaw that will allow him to lose a fight. He will sacrifice himself or he will get sucker punched fair. but he will never lose. And that's why he's playing Black Adam, and Black Adam's not going up against Shazam because Black Adam would have to lose. Did we talk about this, Brian?
I don't think we've talked about this, but these are
Okay.
things that I have heard, especially when Hobbs and Shaw was coming out, about the contractual stipulations of how many hits he can take and how many hits he has to be able to return and things like that. Yeah.
Vin Diesel has the same thing.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that he can voice Groot and have Groot take the punches, and that's fine. Like, I'm sure, because it's not Vin Diesel taking the punches and losing fights. So that's fair. Yeah, Miss Marauder, I've said it a couple of times recently. It's ever since the Jungle Cruise movie that I've been pointing it out. So Vaga is saying Marvel wants to work with collaborators. And yeah, that's true. So I think that there are people who are too big for their boots, like Tom Cruise or The Rock, who Marvel is not going to work with. On the flip side, who are people that they want to work with? Hippie Jill brought up Taika Waititi, and it's because Taika Waititi and James Gunn know what it's like to have people give them parameters, and they fill the whole, they're given the parameters and they do whatever they want within those parameters, and I think that they're fine with that, you know?
Yeah, and I also feel like there's a degree to which they've sort of earned a level of give and take from the studio. You know what I mean? Like, they've proven that their sensibilities are a hit and are popular with people. And because of that, like, that's how you go from, like, Guardians 1, which is a solid movie, to Guardians 2, which is a lot more idiosyncratic, to the degree that, like, some people don't like it as much. I love Guardians 2. I think it's phenomenal. But, you know, it's definitely James Gunn being allowed to play in his own space a bit more than he maybe would have been able to in Guardians 1 if that film hadn't been proven to be so successful. A.C. Bradley is the name of the head writer, A.C. Bradley.
Oh, okay.
Shout out to A.C. Bradley. Check out those interviews with her because they're interesting.
Do you think Thor Love and Thunder is going to be to Thor Ragnarok what Guardians 2 was to Guardians 1? Where it's going to be Taika being like, I can do whatever I want?
I mean, with what they seem to be putting on the table, it definitely feels that way. Like, first of all, like the two stories that they're adapting, which are all from the Jason Aaron run, are phenomenal stories, and I highly recommend anybody who's watching to check out the Jason Aaron Thor run because it's just phenomenal storytelling. But you have on the one hand the Jane Foster story of her becoming Thor, which is huge, and on the other hand you have Gore the God Butcher, which is a intense, powerful story, and Taika Waititi getting to run wild with it. It's gonna be interesting. I'm wondering if he'll kind of lighten the tone of it a little bit. I'm always gonna I try not to judge things before going into them, but I am curious to see how he's handling it. But yeah, I mean the premise of those two stories is so buck wild that I'm excited to see what he does with them.
Right. All I know is there has to, like, it brings up the whole thing, like, let's stop giving assholes platforms. Just because you're talented doesn't mean, like, we have to put up with you being an asshole. So Taika Waititi and James Gunn are supposed to be very wonderful people to work with. Even though they're crazy as shit, great, they're still not causing problems, right?
Right, yeah. Everybody who works with them seems to have really good things to say. And hopefully this episode won't age horribly down the line. But, you know, the collaborators that they work with, I mean, you know, they both have people who keep appearing in their films, and that must be for a reason, you know, so.
Right. And so I'm excited to see what comes with Marvel and, you know, how What If progresses. Because I want to care. I want... Especially because I have this after show. I'm stuck in this contractually to myself.
But I think what'll be good for you is you'll have a different thing to talk about each week. You know what I mean? Like, if you're watching a show that you don't like, you're kind of stuck in the same plot line.
Right.
But with What If, it's like every week's going to be a new world, a new universe, a new premise, and maybe it'll be it's like Twilight Zone. Some episodes will probably be like okay, some will be transcendent. That's kind of the risk you take with an anthology show, but that's also the fun of it too.
Yeah, anthology shows. I think that's also something that I'm not necessarily like into.
Which lines up with what you were saying earlier about your feelings on What If in general. Yeah.
Because if you like something, it's like, look, it's like this. It's like, Brian, I'm going to give you a whole new girlfriend every single week. Every single week you get a new girlfriend, okay? And then it's like, oh, that many? And it's like, yeah, but once one's over, one starts back up again. And you have no idea what this person's personality is going to be like.
Right.
So
right.
you're rolling the dice every single time. It's like, but I found my true love. She was 3 girlfriends back. Wait, this is like real life.
We're moving on.
Oh, shit. This is...
Real life is an anthology. Yeah.
Kind of. I mean, kind of. No. This is... Am I helping anyone out there? Is anyone out there?
Now we're getting into the stoned thoughts we were talking about earlier. Now we're really getting into stoned thoughts for sure.
Vaga says that was ironically a Black Mirror episode. Which Black Mirror episode was that?
The one, isn't that the one where, isn't the Hang the DJ where they keep going on the date and they like reset it every time? I'm not sure if that's
I remember Hang the DJ
sounds like
episode.
that one.
Yeah. I need to rewatch some of those episodes. Anyway, I digress. Thank you, Brian, for coming on the show. Is there any? It's always a pleasure to have you, whether it's on this show or whether it's on Comic Talk. I'm sure I'll have you for a Keeg Live episode sometime.
Yeah.
But do you have any closing thoughts about What If, or any questions from the audience, maybe to finish this all up?
Yeah, I think I definitely am enjoying it. Excited to see what comes next, but I'm also a big old nerd and I'm in the tank for this stuff in a major way.
Yeah.
So I have a hard time presenting my opinion as objective. But I think the question that you presented earlier, which I think is going to be the ongoing question, is will people be invested in this? I would like for them to be, because I think this is fun, but this is also this is the funny thing about where we are in the MCU now, is we're getting to some real nerdy shit, like multiple timelines, alternate universes, time travel. This is like hardcore nerd stuff, and I do wonder if people will be on board. But I mean, people have been surprising me the last 10 years with this crap, so who knows?
Right. Miss Marauder says, what if Dimitri learned to love anthology series? And I don't think
this
that
will be it.
Yeah, I don't think that was like a crazy burn or anything, but Hippie Jill is in the comments being like, Miss Marauder, shots fired. I don't know was it shots fired? I don't know.
Maybe this is the what if we're living in right now. We'll find out over the next couple of weeks how you feel.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Brian, for coming on the show, taking time out of your night. I know you're East Coast, so it is 5:16 over there.
Well, I'm on summer vacation, so I'm just gonna go right back to bed. So
okay,
that's fine with me.
Yeah. Hippie Jill, you a little heated, D? I'm angry. Yeah. Thank you to everybody out there who are watching. Hippie Jill, I don't think has ever checked out a after show before. She's seen our other shows, but thank you so much, Jill, for watching this show. Thank you to Vagabondage and Miss Marauder, and I saw Duck Dodgers out there. I saw Super Beard out there. Thank you guys so much for coming here and taking time out of your night. You know, Tolliver Street, yes, and then I can't see who else, but yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this show. Yeah, Paul couldn't make it tonight, but Paul will be back next week, so we'll be able to talk to Paul and say hi. But Brian, what is your social media? If you want to say that out loud, you got any plugs? Anything coming up? Anything you want to say?
Yeah, best place to check me out on social media is on TikTok. That's Captain Comic Rex, RECS, like recommendations, talking about comic books all the time. It's pretty much just comics. I occasionally dip into MCU stuff, but it's mostly comic book. If it's going to be MCU, it's going to be comic books that are connected to the MCU somehow. I just did a bunch of videos on the What If comics, picked out some of my favorites and did some deep dives on them. So if you want to know a little bit more, check those out. And then my normal plug, support your local public schools. Pay your taxes so your schools are well funded. Shout out to public schools.
Yeah. I always like that. You always say that, and I always like that. My mom's been a teacher. My mom's been a teacher her whole life. So like, if there's something that I support, it's teachers and teaching and the role that they play in our society. No, not you, Brian. Other teachers.
Just your mom specifically.
Yeah, my mom. And has my mom met you? No? Okay, so then you haven't gotten vetted yet. Hippie Jill puts a GIF, 2 thumbs up. Thank you so much, everybody out there.
Thank you.
If you guys are watching this, please, especially those of you on Volume right now, click follow on Volume. If you haven't clicked follow, give us a follow on Volume. If you're on Facebook or YouTube or Twitch, give us a follow on that. That definitely helps us. It'd be nice to pick up pace that way. Those are our live streaming platforms, but we also are going to be setting this up podcast-wise, probably coming out tomorrow or so. I'm going to do that once we're done with this. Our podcast, if you want to listen to any of our podcasts, give us a cool 5-star review. Do what you can to help support the show. You don't have to do everything. Just any little thing would help. You can find our podcast at on Apple Podcasts, on Google Play, on Spotify, on iHeartRadio, and on SoundCloud. Yeah, those are the 5. So definitely, support the podcast if you're into podcasts. Support the live streams if you're into live streams. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at The Keeg Show. That's the easiest place where you can stay in touch with us and keep up to date with our schedule, because we always got schedule stuff. There's one thing every single day, 5 days a week. We got stuff. So it's a lot of work. So thank you guys so much for supporting the show, supporting me, supporting Brian here.
You need to make a promotional image of you with the Infinity Gauntlet, and each gem is a different platform that you're on. I think that's what you need to do.
That'd be cool. Holy shit. I'm going to think about that and work that out. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Brian, for that.
You're that one for free. Enjoy.
Yeah. Either way, thank you guys for your support. Thank you guys for watching this. Thank you to Brian for coming on the show. Once again, I'm your host, Dimitri Pereira, and this has been the What If After Show. I will see you next week. Not Brian, sorry, but we'll have a new guest next week. I forget who is scheduled for next week, but we will have a new guest. We're going to do the 9 episodes of What If After Show. So watch What If at midnight Pacific time. 1 a.m. Pacific time is when you can watch this live stream and talk with us in the chat. But either way, thank you so much. This has been the What If After Show. Take care, everybody. Peace out.